When I arrived at the gas station for my first shift, everything seemed pretty ordinary. It was a standalone, family-owned gas station, branded with the generic name Star Gasoline. Though the place looked a bit worn out, it was functional enough. Only one car was pumping gas under a single yellow light that hung in the center, casting shadows in all four directions, almost like a compass. Inside the convenience store, everything was just as you'd expect. The glass windows were covered with faded ads for cigarettes, energy drinks, and a 2 hot dogs for 99 cents deal. As I opened the door, a little bell chimed, and I was greeted by the smell of old hot dogs, likely left under a heat lamp all day. Glancing around, I noticed there was no one at the counter, but a woman, looking to be in her 50s, waved at me from the back while sweeping the floor. The store itself was slightly larger than most gas station shops, with a clock and an old TV screen on each side of the room showing live footage of the pumps outside. Oddly, the cameras seemed aimed too low, mostly capturing the ground between the pumps and the store, instead of focusing on the actual pumps. "Hello. You must be Alex," she said, bringing me out of my thoughts. "I know my husband was the one who interviewed you. We've been trying to fill this night shift position for months. I'm just too old to stay up that late anymore, but you're young, so you'll be fine." She quickly wiped her hands on her pants and extended one out for a handshake. Nice to meet you. You can go ahead and set your stuff behind the counter, and I'll give you a quick tour. I know you've worked at a gas station before, so I won't bore you with the basics. We just needed someone reliable, who can follow instructions." For someone her age, she moved surprisingly fast, clearly eager to wrap up and go home. "Cleaning supplies are back here in the closet," she said, pointing. "Mops and brooms are on the left, bathrooms on the right. It's just a single toilet." I peeked inside. The bathroom was as I'd imagined: scratched walls, likely from people carving initials, and tiles stained a brownish color from years of use. At least it smelled of bleach, and there was hand soap, which wasn't always a given in gas station bathrooms. And promised to give me a cleaning schedule later, detailing tasks and their timings since I'd be closing up at night. She then showed me the cash register and the debit machine, going over the basics before pulling out a set of keys from her pocket. "These are for locking up," she explained. "One key's for the front and the other for the back door. Near your chair by the register, there's a yellow list with the cleaning tasks. But the red sheet," she pointed to a bright red paper beside the register, "is the one you'll need to memorize. Follow it and you'll have no problems." "Thanks, I'll read through it," I replied. "I brought a watch like you asked, though with all these clocks here, I'm not sure I'll even need it." "Oh, you'll need it," she said seriously. "Trust me. Your shift starts in about 15 minutes. Go ahead, sit down, maybe check out some of those tasks to start. Soon, you'll have this all memorized." After gathering her things and finally left. The store was quiet now, with no customers in sight. It was nearly 10 p.m., and the roads outside were empty. I looked back at the gas station light, flickering now and then. The shadows it cast from the pumps stretched long and eerie, all pointing towards the store as if reaching out. I picked up both instruction sheets. The yellow sheet seemed ordinary enough, listing routine tasks like mopping and taking out the trash. But the red sheet caught my attention. It was packed with instructions. "Welcome to Star Gas Station, Night Shift Manual. Please follow these instructions carefully to maintain our standards. A peaceful store with busy employees is a happy and safe place for everyone. Keep the store clean and yourself busy. It's best to stay active, mainly in the lit parts of the store. Only go into darker areas when you really have to. Half of the lights will always be turned off. Turn off half the store lights by 10 p.m. It doesn't matter which half you choose, but stick with it for the rest of the night. Avoid turning off all the lights, or it'll make the store look closed. Later on, you may need that darker half. If you need to use the bathroom, keep the door slightly open. This way, you can still see the security monitors showing the pumps outside. Throughout the night, you might see puddles of water or dust gathering on floors and counters. Do your best to clean these up when you can. A tidy store doesn't attract unwanted attention. Make sure to check the employee break room too. At 12:05 a.m., start mopping the drinks aisle. Prepare the mop bucket with water and soap just before midnight, then go to the back drinks aisle and mop continuously until 12:25 a.m. Do not leave this aisle during that time for any reason. You might feel like something is watching you or sense an urge to run, but ignore it. Act like everything's normal and keep mopping. If it helps, listen to music on headphones and keep your head down. The actual quality of mopping doesn't matter. What matters is that you look like you're working. There's a camera feed on the wall near the cash register showing the backlot. Unlike the other monitors, you only need to check this one every 30 minutes, at the top and bottom of the hour. If, at any time, you see a dark figure standing in front of this camera and staring directly at you, calmly crouch under the counter where you can't be seen on the monitor. Wait for 5 minutes, then use the small mirror under the register to discreetly check if the figure has gone. If it's still there, keep checking every 5 minutes until it disappears. If you see the figure from the back lot standing outside the front of the store, don't acknowledge it. Stop whatever you're doing, stay calm, and move to the unlit section of the store. Crouch down behind the aisles, making noise by rearranging snacks or drinks. The idea is to stay out of sight but appear busy. You can peek through the shelves to check if it's still there, but be careful. These last rules are the most critical. Normally, the only visitor is this figure from the backlot. But on rare nights, others might show up. If you see all 4 gas pump shadows pointing towards you at the same angle, it's a bad sign. This means out-of-town visitors are near, and you should prepare to leave the store. If the shadows from the gas pumps are all pointing in one direction toward the store, follow these steps immediately. Head to the employee back room. Locate the large light switch panel on the wall and turn off every switch. This will cut the power to the whole store, making it look closed. This may frustrate our usual visitor, but it should make the out-of-towners lose interest and move on. Enter the storage room on the right, lock the door, and deadbolt it. Silence your phone and, if you can, send a quick text as a record. Stay inside quietly. These visitors may enter the store, and our regular visitor may as well, but they shouldn't find you if you stay hidden and silent. You might need to wait until morning. It's safe to rest as long as you're absolutely still and silent. Even taking a nap is fine if you can manage it without snoring. If you followed the steps correctly, we'll collect you in the morning and pay you triple for the trouble. As I read through this last section, a sense of panic crept over me. One particular instruction stood out. I quickly glanced up at the nearest monitor. I saw that the shadows around the pumps were stretching long, so long that they almost seemed to spill into the store. My heart raced, and I rechecked the red sheet to make sure I understood the instructions. It was eerie, as I distinctly remembered those shadows being in a compass formation when I first arrived. There was no logical way they could have shifted like this, considering the single overhead light was stationary. Blood drained from my face as I looked at the clock. Time was running out. I recalled the final instructions: back room, shut down the panel; storage room, lock it, and stay quiet. I bolted from behind the counter, running to the back of the store. My hands shook as I fumbled for the light switches, shutting down the entire store. With only my phone flashlight to guide me, I stumbled toward the storage room, shut the door, and deadbolted. I crouched in the darkness, hidden behind some boxes, trying to calm my pounding heart. In a panic, I dialed N's number, praying she'd answer. The dial tone felt endless, but finally, her voice came through. "Hello?" With relief, I asked her if the red sheet instructions were real and blurted out what I had seen: the shadows, all pointing toward the store. I demanded to know if I was genuinely in danger. "Sorry I didn't mention this earlier, honey. That last scenario almost never happens," she replied. "It's only come up a couple of times in the past 2 years. But it sounds like you did almost everything right, so just hang in there. We'll be there to get you in the morning." I let out a shaky breath, reassured enough to sit down against the wall. But as I was about to end the call, a strange thought struck me. And had said I'd done almost everything right? My relief evaporated, replaced by cold dread as a voice whispered right by my ear, "You were supposed to text her." That wasn't me on the phone. I froze as the chilling realization hit me. That voice wasn't coming from my phone. It was right next to my ear. My face went pale, and I struggled to make sense of what had just happened. I asked aloud, in a trembling voice, how that could be possible. I'd heard the dial tone and everything. It all felt so real. "Oh, I know it sounds crazy," the voice continued. I couldn't bring myself to look in its direction. "Sit down," it whispered, almost mockingly. The following morning, and sat with me, trying to explain. According to her, the shadowy figure, whom she called Fred, could mimic voices and sounds. She shared stories of her own encounters, like hearing her husband's voice calling her name from the parking lot or her son knocking on the back door late at night. But she knew better. Her husband never came by at night, and her son hadn't lived in town for years. She even recounted a time when, out of habit, she'd answered her ringing phone, only to remember she always kept it on silent. And admitted she should have explained things better. She'd done this job for so long that certain rules had become second nature, and she'd forgotten a newcomer might need more details. But I wasn't ready to let her off the hook. I thought back to the unusual hiring process, how Anne's husband had only done a phone interview and never wanted to meet in person. At the time, I'd chalked it up to their desperation to fill the position. Now, I wondered if they had deliberately kept some things hidden from me. I asked and why they hadn't closed the gas station at night or even left town altogether. She told me that her husband had inherited the station, a legacy from his father. Every building in town had a bit of history tied to it, and the gas station, being open for truckers passing through at night for decades, seemed to have gained a presence. If they shut down or changed too much, bad things started happening. I asked her how I'd made it through the night, even after breaking some rules, and hesitated, saying that Fred sometimes let certain employees go. Others hadn't been so lucky. One previous worker, she told me, lost a leg but survived. Unfortunately, he didn't live long, as he bled out from his injury before morning. And wouldn't give me names, though, out of respect for the families. Still, she seemed genuinely concerned when she noticed my left ear had gone deaf. "It's just one of the risks of the night shift," she said, and then shared that her husband was completely blind. He'd once fallen asleep during a shift, only to wake up the next morning, unable to see. As for Anne, she feared growing older and eventually being unable to stay awake herself. That's why they'd needed a replacement. The way she said it made me wonder if that's why I had survived the encounter instead of meeting a mysterious end. I wanted to know more about Fred, who or what he really was. But Anne shook her head, saying, "Not today. You're too shaken up. Go home and rest. Take the rest of the week off, but I'll need you back on Monday." Monday? I thought. She couldn't be serious. There was no way I'd return to that gas station. But before I could protest, Anne locked the door and walked away, ending the conversation. I muttered under my breath, "Fred probably won't like that," and left, still bewildered. Over the next few days, strange things kept happening. Every time I applied for a new job, I'd either be turned down instantly or get some odd error saying the employer was unreachable. Even when a friend tried applying on my behalf, he was immediately rejected. Soon, I pieced together the disturbing truth. Something wanted me to stay. The night after that realization, I was at home when I spotted a shadowy figure through my bedroom window. It didn't look solid, like a regular person. Frozen with fear, I watched as it seemed to grow closer, inching toward my window. My whole body went numb as the room's lights flickered off. Trying not to panic, I darted to the bathroom, making as much noise as possible to act busy. I splashed water, brushed my teeth, and even knocked over my toothbrush holder by accident. Each clatter seemed to keep the figure at bay. After that, the shadow returned every night, hovering by my window. I eventually realized that going to bed before 10 p.m. and pretending to sleep seemed to keep it from coming too close. But as Monday approached, my luck only worsened. My car wouldn't start, my keys vanished, and random things kept going wrong around my apartment. By Sunday, my apartment door wouldn't lock, despite being perfectly fine before. Taking no chances, I bought a new deadbolt and installed it myself. Now, with my options exhausted, I know I have to go back to the gas station on Monday. I'm hoping this return will put an end to these nightmares. I've barely eaten or slept, weighed down by constant dread. If anyone has advice on how to handle this shift perfectly, please share. There are so many rules, and I don't want to make a mistake. But if Anne and her husband can do this, I have to believe I can too. For now, I'll keep reminding myself, stay calm, stay busy, and never show fear.